How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Daled, Daf 4 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, Daf Daled of Masechta Ksubis. Well, we had mentioned yesterday that there were, meaning we've been saying that Besula Nisei is the Yom HaRavi on Wednesday. Now we said yesterday that if there's a sakone, because of this pervert governor dude that likes to sleep with all the girls before their weddings, so then you can move it up to Tuesday, so that he doesn't come on Tuesdays. And then we said, but if there was some kind of ones, so then you can get married on Monday. So then the question is, what's this ones? So that is the subject of our daf today. So, uvasheni lo yichnos. So says the Gemara on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, about 10 lines from the bottom. Uvasheni lo yichnos, that a Besula does not get married on Monday. V'machmas ha'ones mutter, but if there's an ones, so then if there's something like kind of beyond your control, so then it is permitted to get married on a Monday. My ones, what is this ones? If we'd say, if it's what we said earlier, I assume what that means is the pervert. So hasum karile sakone vacha kakarile ones. Well, by the governor we called it sakone. Why would we call it ones here? Visu hasum nagu hachamutter. It said by the governor that the minig became to get married on Tuesday, whereas over here it says it's permitted to get married on a Monday. So it says Rav, it's talking about where they say that a fancy officer from the army is coming to the city, and he's coming on a Wednesday, and when he comes he's gonna make a mess, he's gonna take all the food and stuff. Like, better to just get the wedding, better to have the wedding before he comes. Now one second, what's the deal with this officer guy? If he's just kind of passing through the city, so let him come, pass through the city, push off the wedding by a week, and get married next Wednesday. Why do you have to get married this week on Monday? No, it means that he's coming to the city and he's planning to stay in the city, and therefore, you better chaparayin before he comes, because once he comes, he's going to be here for a while. Okay. Okay, but still, why do you have to move it up to Monday? Why not have the wedding on Tuesday? Well, because his people who come to set up, the logistics people, they're already coming on Tuesdays. So therefore, do the chasana on Monday. If you want to, okay, fine. So that was one option of what the onus is. The onus is that some officer is coming and he's gonna make a mess, and just better to have the chasana before he comes and takes all the food and all that kind of stuff. Now this is basically going to take us for the rest of our daf, that which we haven't even started yet. We're still on Daf Gimel Amud Beis. We haven't even started Daf Daled yet. But there's another option for what this onus might be, and it is my machmas onus. What is this onus? Kidetanya, as we learn in the Brisa, Hare shohaya pito afui. You have a chosin kale, and they're about to get married. The pitas have already been baked. What do you think they're having with the pitas? You think they're gonna have like a make your own falafel, or maybe hummus? Maybe they'll make hummus and everybody could have hummus. Maybe that's good. What do you guys think? What do you like to eat on your pitas? Let's go weiter. So utvachay tavuach, and they already slaughtered the animals to eat. V'yeno mazug, they already mixed the wine with the water so that it's ready to be drank, right? Because of course they used to have to dilute their wines. Umeis aviv shel chasen u'im shel kala, boom. And then, unfortunately, the chasen's father, or the kala's mother, and as Rashi points out, and as is going to be mentioned in the Gemara, davke, the chasen's father, it sort of depends on him to sort of, I think they're assuming to pay for the wedding, and the mother's, and the kala's mother, who helps her with her jewelry and all that kind of stuff. So davke, the key players at the chasana are the chasen's father and the kala's mother. So if they die, then it would be very difficult to just push off the wedding and have it another day, because we need the father I guess, organize the wedding, and the mother of the we need the father of the chosin to what does Rashi say? He's the one busy with the needs of the suda, and if we push it off, who's gonna help out the kala get ready for the wedding with her jewelry and things like that? So we say in that case, machnisin es hameis lacheder. So if it's the father of the chosin or the mother of the kala, so then we move the corpse into another room, and the chosin kala get married, right? Because everything's already been prepared, right? The father who died has already, prepared all the tzorkei suda, or if it's the mother who died, she's already, gotten everything that her daughter needs. And so just, in this case, move the body to another room, and then the chosin kale get married. Uva bilas mitzvah, they have bia, and then uforesh, and then they go and they bury the parent. V'noig shivas yimei mishte, and then what they do is the first 7 days following the chasana / ptira, so they have sheva brachas for the first 7 days, the shivas yimei mishte. After which there are then 7 days of mourning. What a roller coaster. And during those days, he doesn't sleep together with his wife, he sleeps among the men. She sleeps with the women. And we do not hold back jewelry from the bride kol shloshim yom for the entire 30-day period, even though normally during the shloshim we would refrain from wearing tachshitin, but over here we do not, because they just got married, they're newlywed couple. V'davka oviv shel chosin or ima shel kale, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, davke, if it's the father of the groom or the mother of the bride who passes away, the leka inish detarach, because there's nobody else who's going to help them, right? Meaning we're reliant upon the chosin's father to prepare the tzor kesuda, everything that's needed for the chasana, and the mother's and the bride's mother to help her get ready for the chasana. And if they die, it's going to be very difficult to reschedule, because who's going to fill their shoes? Aval ipchalo. But if it's the mother of the groom or the father of the bride, so then we would postpone the wedding and just go straight to the burial and the mourning immediately. Let's see. Okay, let's take a break here for a second. So what do we see? So we see that that's another situation of onus. So like if it's a Monday and they'd already prepared everything for the chasana was going to be on Wednesday, but all of a sudden pitom on Monday the father of the groom or the mother of the bride dies. So then we say, okay, just get married on Monday, because if you don't get married now, it's not going to be a mess. So we say, put the body in another room, chosin and kala get married, and then they do this whole complicated roller coaster thing of avelus / simcha over the next 14 days or whatever, a whole roller coaster. Amrafim by puppet. So that's the case of onus, that you can get married even on a Monday if the father of the groom or the mother of the bride dies. Rafim by Papa, Rav Chizde, Loshanu ela shenosan mayim al gabi basar. Says Rafim by Papa in the name of Rav Chizde that when we say that just move forward with the wedding, that's only if they already put water on the meat. I don't exactly know what that means, water on meat. I mean, I'm not such a meat guy, but I have eaten meat, and I don't know. I don't know much about water on meat. I don't know. But anyways, so if they already put water on the meat, so then it's already like you can't really sell it anymore. Meaning if they already right, it says that they already slaughtered the meat, and if they already put water on it, so then at that point you can't sort of like go and resell it. But if they haven't yet put water on the meat, so then you know what? Reschedule the wedding. Take the meat, sell it in the butcher shop, get the money for it, and use that to reschedule the wedding. My Rava says, and Rava says, look, if you're in a big city, so then even if you put water on the meat already, there's always going to be buyers. So then you wouldn't move forward with the wedding. And if we're talking about a small village, so then even in the event that they have not yet put water on the meat, still just go forward with the wedding, because you might not find buyers in a village. So then what's the deal with Rav Chizda, where he says, well, it depends if you put the water on the meat or not. We said in the city, even if you have put the water on the meat, you could still sell it. And if it's a village, even if you haven't put the water on the meat, you still can't find somebody to buy it. So then where's what Rav Chizda says correct, i.e. that it depends if you put the water on the meat or not. So it says Rav Ashi, well, a place like Mata Mechasio, which is bigger than a village but smaller than a city, so there it would depend. If you put water on the meat, then it might be difficult to sell. But if you haven't yet put water on the meat, so then you'll be able to sell it, no problem. Fine. Okay, so we had two examples of what this onus could be. One is, what was the first one? That the officer is coming. The second one is that there's a death in the family. Fine. Tani Kavasa to Rav Chizda, we have a brisa supporting Rav Chizda who makes this distinction about if you put water on the meat or not. Haresha Yapito Afuya, they already baked his bread. Utvachoi Tavuach, they already slaughtered the animals. V'yenu Mazug, and they already diluted the wine. And they already put water on the meat. And then the groom's father or the bride's mother dies. So we bring the corpse into a room. And then the chosin kale, we go weiter with the wedding. And they have bia uforish, and then they go and they bury the nifter. And they have 7 days of feast of celebrations. And then after that, 7 days of mourning. And during that entire period, he sleeps with the men, his wife sleeps with the women. And similarly, and this is kind of going to be sort of a big part of the next chunk of the page. And similarly, somebody, right, if at the time of the chasana, his wife becomes a nida, and we're going to see a distinction in a few minutes, but let's just say for now it means that on the day of the wedding, his wife is a nida. What does Rashi say? When she goes to the chuppah, so then if she's a nida, then also these things apply. So then they're not going to sleep in the same place. He's going to sleep with the men, she's going to sleep with the women, because if she's a nida, they cannot sleep together. And we don't refrain, we don't hold back jewelry from the kala for 30 days. No matter what, a chosin and a kala should not have bia on a Friday night or on a Motzoi Shabbos, and the Gemara will explain why. Okay, fine. Now, Omer Mar, we said before, Hu Yoshin Benu Anoshim V'Yishena Ben Anoshim. So we said before that in the event that the groom's father or the bride's mother dies, so we said that they sleep in different places. So Misayed Rabbi Yochanan, that this supports Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbi Yochanan Afapisha Amar in Avelus B'Moed, that Rabbi Yochanan says that even though they said that there's no Avelus on the festivals, Avol Dvarim Shel Tziner Noig, but things that are in private, you would do, right? So when a fellow gets married, so the Shivya Semiyah Mishteh, these 7 days, the week following the wedding, is like a regal for him. It's like a holiday. It's like a sort of festival for him. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says that on a festival, in public, we do not display mourning, but in private, we do. So says, so this supports Rabbi Yochanan, because we're saying over here also that the chasen, while he's in this week of festivities following his chasana, so while in public he would not display mourning, as we say that he has 7 days of festivities, but in private, when they go to sleep at night, they would sleep in different places, because they would be noig avelus in the things that are sort of not for the public eye. Darish of Yosef Brei Rav Mishmei Rav. Now says of Yosef Brei Rav in the name of Rav, Lo yishanu ela shelo ba'al. When we say that they have to sleep in different places, that is shelo ba'al, only if they did not yet have bia. Because if they did not yet have bia, then the assumption is that the Yetzer Hara is going to be too strong, and if they sleep in the same place, right, together, so then it's going to be, if they haven't yet had bia and they just got married, and now he's an Ovel, and he's not allowed to have bia, so it's going to be too difficult. But if they already had bia, so then they could sleep together, and the assumption is, look, they're in Avelus, the halacha is they can't have bia, and they won't have bia, they already had bia once. 1 second, friends, avert your gaze. Does avert your gaze mean to look? Look at the first line of the page, the very first words of the page. What does it say? Uvoel bilas mitzvah. It says they go, the chas and kala get married, and then they have bia, and only then do they have avelus. And it says, right, so they're having bia, and still it says after that they have to sleep in different places. So we see that even though so how is Rav Yosef Breder Rav is saying in the name of Rav that once they've had bia, they could sleep in the same places, whereas, right, if we look at the top of the page, it's saying even though they had bia, still they have to sleep in different places. So, ki ka'amar perse ishto nida. So when Rav says that there's this distinction between if they've had bia or not, that's by nida, right? It says v'chein. What did we say? We said v'chein. Misha Persa Ishto Nida, Hu Yashin Benu Anoshim Vishena Ben Anoshim. So we said that also if a fellow's wife is a Nida when they get married, so they have to sleep in different places. So there's a distinction, right? So we said when it comes to Avelos, so we said that they have Bia and then still they have to sleep in separate places. However, when Rava makes this distinction between if they've had Bia or not, that's by Nida. If his wife is a Nida, well, if they've already had Bia, so then they could sleep together in the same place, and we're not concerned that they are going to have bia when she is a nida. But if they haven't had bia yet, so then they would not be able to sleep together in the same place, because we have to be concerned that that they're going to have bia. The Yetzer Hara is going to be too strong. They're going to have bia even though she's a nida, and that is a problem. If they already had bia, then they could stay in the same place. But 1 second, how could we say that there's a distinction between avelus and nida? It says v'chein misha persa ishto nida, right? What is it? Misha persa. What is it? V'chein misha persa ishto nida. It says similarly. I don't know. So the Gemara wants to say, look, what does similarly mean? It's the same exact context, right? Just like by avelus, we said that he has bia, and then they still have to be separated, whether before bia, whether after bia, they have to be separated. It says v'chein misha persa ishto nida, right? And similarly, if his wife is a nida, implying that when we're talking about when his wife is a nida, it's the same halacha. Whether they had bia, whether they didn't have bia, they would still have to sleep in different places. Achi Kamar says the Gemara, no, this is what it means. V'chein, and similarly, misha persa ishto nida, if his wife is a nida, vilo baal, and they haven't yet had bia. So there is a distinction. And in that case, if they haven't yet had bia, hu yashin benu anoshim v'ishto yishena ben anoshim, in that case, then he's got to sleep with the men, and she sleeps with the women. But if they've already had bia, then they can sleep together in the same place, and we're not concerned that they're going to have bia when she is a nida. So now the Gemara asks the kasha, L'meimer da avelus kilale minida? Oh. So is that to say that mourning is more lenient, i.e. that we take more leniently mourning than we do nida? Meaning, we're saying that, well, when it comes to nida, right, based on this distinction of Rava, when it comes to nida, once they've had bia, so then they could sleep together in the same, they could sleep together in the same, I guess in the same bed, and we're not concerned that they're going to have bia. Why? Because nida is so stringent. Because nida, there's a chiyuv kares involved, right? If you have bia if a man has a bia with his wife who's a nida, there's a chiyuv kares. And therefore, because nida is so stringent, we could trust them to sleep in the same bed and not have bia, because nida is so stringent, and they're just not going to do that. However, avelus, we take more leniently, right? And therefore, we say whether they've had bia, whether they haven't yet had bia, either way, they have to sleep in different places, because we might think that they won't take it as seriously and they might end up having bia. Therefore, we have to say we have to be more stringent. We have to sort of impose a more stringent rule, which is that they have to sleep in different places, because otherwise we're concerned that they might take it more lightly than nida, whereas nida is so stringent that we don't need that concern, and they could sleep in the same bed. So now, I'm going to read that again. So does that imply that mourning is sort of taken more leniently than nida, and therefore we have to sort of be more stringent with it so that it isn't otherwise taken leniently? But it says of Yitzchak bar Chanina, the name of Huna, that any malachis that a woman does for her husband, and later on in the Masechta we can explain what that is. Nida osa levaila, nida can also do that. Chutz mimaziga sakos, the exceptions being, diluting his wine for him, or maybe not even that. No, it doesn't say mazigas yain. I guess pouring, drinks for him. V'atzoas amita, making his bed. V'achotzos panav yadav raglav, washing his face, his hands, his feet. These are things that a nida should not do. Vilu gabi avelus. Katanya, but by avelus, by morning, it says, even though a fellow cannot force his wife to put on makeup during a period of mourning, they said, she could pour for him a cup, she can make the bed, and wash his face, hands, and feet. So we seem to be saying that, we're saying the opposite over here when it comes to avelus, right? That we're saying that by a nida, she cannot, pour his cup and things like that. But by avelus, we say she can. I.e., it sounds like it's the opposite over here, which is that avelus is more stringent than we're not going to concern that that's going to lead to having bia. Whereas by nida, we are concerned. So we seem to be saying here that avelus is more stringent, that we don't have to, have as stringent rules, because it's not going to lead to bia anyways. So lakasha kan bavelus dide kan bavelus didos. It says in where, well, it depends. Depends who's in mourning. Is the groom in mourning, or is the or is the bride in mourning, or is the wife in mourning, right? If she is in mourning, well, then she doesn't have time for this stuff. She's in mourning right now. There's no concern. She can pour his cup, make his bed and stuff. Even if he's going to want to have bia, her mind is elsewhere. It's not going to happen, right? And therefore, we don't need to have as many rules. But if it's he who's in mourning, well, then we have to be more stringent, because he might try to convince her to have bia, and therefore we have to say, look, and that's why sort of in our brisa, earlier in the daf, right, the beginning of Talmud Amud Aleph, we said that even if they've had bia, they still have to sleep in separate places. That's talking about where he is in mourning. But if she's in mourning, they wouldn't have to sleep in separate places, because she's not interested in having bia, and they're not going to have bia. But 1 second, the brisa had specifically said whether it's the father of the groom or the mother of the bride, i.e., even if she is in mourning, still they would sleep in separate places. So kikatani ashayre. No, when it says the mother of the bride, that's talking about other things, right? In terms of like, they have the 7 days of celebrations, and then the 7 days of mourning, right? Thing, and she could put on makeup and all those kinds of things, but not sleeping in the same place, right? They would be, if her mother dies, they would be able to sleep in the same place, because we're not concerned about bia. But 1 second, do we really make a distinction between if he's in mourning or if she's in mourning? That if he's in mourning, they have to sleep in separate places, but if she's in mourning, then they could sleep in the same place. But we learn in a brisa, so a fellow whose father-in-law or mother-in-law dies, so i.e. his wife is in mourning, he can't force his wife to wear makeup. What he does is he flips over his bed and he mourns together with her, and he leaves her alone. And similarly, if her father-in-law or mother-in-law dies, i.e. her husband is in mourning, she cannot put on makeup. She flips over the bed and is in mourning with him. Now, it doesn't say anything there about having to sleep in different places. So it seems like whether she's in mourning, whether he's in mourning, they could sleep in the same place. So the Gemara says, well, okay, fine. So just amend the brisa. Tni, teach, ba'avelus didei, in the context of when he's in mourning, hu yashin beinu anoshim v'ishto yishin beinu anoshim. When he's in mourning, they have to sleep in different places. Havechein katani. 1 second, but it says, and similar, right? That they're similar, right? What did it say? It said, right, that if he's in mourning, and it says v'chein. I'm sorry. It says if she's in mourning, and v'chein, and similarly, if he's in mourning. So it sounds like it's the same halacha by both. No, it's the same with regard to like makeup and things, but with regard to sleeping in different places, there's a distinction that if he's in mourning, they would have to sleep in different places. But it says with him, my love, imo bamita. Doesn't it mean with him in the same bed? Lo imo babais. It means in the same house. And like what Rav says to Chia, his son, ba'apa nehoga velusa, lo ba'apa lo tinoga velusa. That kilu when his Rav said to his son Chia, when his wife was in mourning. So he says, look, when you're with her, practice, show that you're in mourning. If you're not with her, you don't have to. But the point is, be with her in her mourning, and that's what we're talking about, right? To be with her in her mourning. Fine. Now, so over here we seem to be saying that there is a distinction between if he is in mourning versus if she is in mourning. That if he is in mourning, we have to be more stringent and say that they have to sleep in different places. But if she is in mourning, so then they could sleep in the same place, because if she's in mourning, she's not interested in having beer, and that's that. Now, Rav Ashi Omar mikamadomus avelusa da'achal la'avelusa da'ama. Rav Ashi says, 1 second. Rav Ashi is feeling like we're getting carried away a little bit over here. That we have this halacha by a newlywed couple who, unfortunately, a parent passes away, and we're saying that they have to sleep in different places, and now all of a sudden we're extending to that to any situation of mourning, and saying that whenever there's a situation of mourning, no matter how long they've been married for, he's got to find some other place to sleep. If he's in mourning, they have to find some other place to sleep. If she's in mourning, they can sleep together. Says Rav Ashi, 1 second, the whole sleeping in different places thing is really only for newlyweds, but in other cases, it's not a concern. Says Rav Ashi, Omar mikamadomis avelusa da'achal avelusa da'ama. Are you really comparing the avelus by newlyweds to general avelus? Avelus da'ama chomer v'lo osid zazulebe. Avelus in general is stringent, and they're not going to be lenient by it, which is like we said in the brisa earlier on this Amud, which is that she can, make the bed and pour his cup and things like that, because it's in a situation of avelus. They're not going to do anything wrong. But avelus dehacha, but by the newlyweds came into akilu be'rabbanon asil zazuleve. But because by the mourning in the context of the newlyweds, because the rabbis were lenient, we have to be concerned that the couple is going to take it leniently, and they might have bia. Therefore, we have to say sleep in different places. My kula, what's the leniency in the context of the newlyweds? If it's because we allow them to have bia first before burying the mace, that's because, well, technically he's not in mourning yet. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they wouldn't be in mourning until the body leaves the house, and we said that just put the body in a different room, but not outside of the house. According to Rabbi Yoshua, the Avela starts once they close the coffin and, bury the mace and close the coffin. That hasn't happened yet either. So that can't be the leniency, because, there is no leniency necessary, that he's not an Avel yet. Rather, because it says that, normally when somebody passes away and you bury them, so then immediately starts the 7 days of mourning. But over here we're saying first have the 7 days of festivities and then the 7 days of mourning, and therefore to show that we have to take it seriously, we say sleep in separate places. But Avelus in general, says Rav Ashi, we don't have to be concerned. We can assume that people are going to take it seriously, and therefore they would even be able to sleep together, and we're not concerned that there's going to be bia. Friends, that was Daf Daled of Masechta Ksubis. Really, the context of Daf Daled was to talk about this situation where we said that if there's an ones, then they can get married on a Monday. The question is, what's this ones? We gave two possibilities. One is that an officer is coming to town and he's going to take all the food, so therefore we need to push up the wedding till Monday. And the other possibility was that somebody died, right? If a parent, right, specifically the father of the groom or the mother of the bride, dies and it's a Monday, so they can just quickly do the chasna on a Monday, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to push it off without the father of the groom or the mother of the bride. So then you can just have the chasna on Monday. We then got into sort of different questions about avelos, right? We saw the opinion of whose opinion was that? Did it even state who it was? I don't think it stated who it was. But one opinion in the Gemara was that there's a distinction between avelus of a husband versus avelus of a wife. If the husband's in avelus, then they actually have to sleep in separate places. Whereas if the wife is in avelus, they could sleep in the same place. And then we saw the opinion of Ravashi, which is no. When it comes to avelus, the husband and wife can sleep in the same place. We're not concerned that they're going to have bia, because they're not allowed to have bia. But when it comes to newlyweds, which is sort of a different case, because we're more lenient, we allow them to have the 7 days of festivities first before the 7 days of mourning. So therefore, we're concerned that they might take it leniently. Therefore, the husband and wife, the newlywed couple, have to sleep in separate places in that onus situation. Friends, that was Daf Daled of Masechta Ksubis. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.